know what I can do.
It doesn't stop.
How do I get out of this?
Okay,
No.
we ready to go? All right, folks, let us call the meeting, the November 6, 2023 City Council meeting to order. Ms. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Payne,
Here.
Councilor Pinkston,
Here.
Councilor Puryear,
Here.
Mayor Snook,
Here,
Vice Mayor Wade.
Here.
all here, present and accounted for. Good to have you back, Mr. Pinkston.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Is there a motion to approve or to amend the agenda?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, cast your vote, please. Motion passes. We have an agenda approved. So the meeting will be divided into three main sections. There will first be a work session to hear and discuss presentations that do not require a council vote. Today, that's going to be budget presentations on the operations section of city government. Do we have a closed meeting?
There's no closed meeting.
Okay, so we would normally expect to have a closed meeting around 5:30. It looks like we will not be having a closed meeting around 5:30, but we will come back to the regular business meeting at 6:30. And that's where most of the action will take place, because we don't take action at the 4 o'clock agenda. So 4 o'clock presentation, budget presentations. Are you going to kick this off for us, Mr. City Manager?
Just to simply say that this is the operations section of the organization. We have 4 presentations. You originally had 5. The transit was going to be your 5th presentation, but we moved them a week to the next meeting, I should say. So we have NDS, Parks and Rec, Public Works and Utilities this evening. So, James?
And David, I got a present. Perfect, thank you. Almost. All right. Good evening, Mayor Snook, members of council. I'm presenting tonight on Neighborhood Development Services. My name is James Fries. I'm the Director of Neighborhood Development Services. There we go. So our shop does 3 things primarily. One, planning. That is working on plans, policies, regulations, and support of implementation of those. So we're all familiar with the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance, 2 of our biggest projects right now. Then under development review, we work in, we do building permits, we do site plan review, and I've included in here enforcement of zoning and our property maintenance codes. And then finally, on the design side, we're involved in historic preservation. That's both planning for historic preservation and enforcing and reviewing projects under our historic preservation ordinances, transportation design, and finally placemaking. We have a 28-member staff divided across 7 sections. Those 7 sections basically are engaged in each of the different aspects of that work, with including people who are engaged in inspections and enforcement all the way through to planners. We have just shy of a $3 million budget in FY24. Most of that is going towards personnel costs. You'll note between FY20 and FY21, there was a drop in that budget. That's reflective of the time when engineering was pulled out of NDS and moved into DPW. We have an ambitious planning program for the upcoming year or next couple years. I think many of you are familiar with this program. We're looking at a small area plan for 10th and Page. We're looking at reviewing and updating our environmental regulations. We're looking at new historic district guidelines and implementation projects related to our new development code, including looking at our short-term rental regulations, parking management program, and this idea of pre-permitted building types. All of these are projects that are related to implementing our comprehensive plan from November of '21. On the development review side, we've got 4 big efforts that are all related to really adapting to change. The first of these is looking at improving our development review process, particularly the time that it takes to engage in that process, the time to approval for projects, and adopting performance measures to get us there. We have changes necessary for our new development code and basically how we do the work of enforcing and reviewing projects under the new zoning ordinance. We have continued training and enhancements to our new permitting software, which I'm going to touch on again in a moment. And then looking at, as we are anticipating an increase in or a potential increase in the volume of applications, looking at utilizing on-call contracts in order to bridge the gap between current staffing levels and increased demand for permit review. Over the last year, we have seen a number of successful projects under, as you guys know, the Planning Commission has made their recommendation on the new Charlottesville Development Code, and we have our public hearing scheduled with all of you for December 5th.
We can hardly wait.
Absolutely. Our building permits are now online. Payments are now online. All of this relating to our new permitting software. Exciting for me, site plans and all of our other permits will go online as of November 13th. So that's next Monday. So as of next Monday, people will be able to submit their site plan applications and the payments associated with those fully online, completely digitally. And then City Manager's Downtown Mall Committee, an effort we started back in January. We're aiming to have that work completed by early next year. Over the last year, we've moved to get our residential permit applications down to an average of 2 weeks from submission to permit. We're working on getting commercial permits down to 1 month. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. Under our transportation program, rides on the scooter service have now exceeded 250,000 rides just this year alone, since beginning of January to now, 250,000 rides. The new permit with our scooter company steps up parking enforcement and rolls out a low-cost program for qualifying low-income riders. And then we saw a great deal of success at last fall with the implementation of improvements related to safe routes to school. That continues into this fall with improvements coming to neighborhoods throughout the city. And then over the last 12 months, we've issued 1,744 building permits, 25 site plans, 9 special use permits, 39 BAR applications, and 28 zoning notice of violations. On that last one, I want to note that we strive to resolve issues without having to get to a notice of violation, but some of them still go to that point, and about half of those are related to homestays. Challenges, implementing the new ordinance. There's a lot for us to do to learn and adapt, and we're also considering and looking at the idea of a potential increase in application volume. I think maintaining the schedule of anticipated planning and policy work is, we have to acknowledge, a challenge, but one we're eager to work on. And then, as I noted, we're looking at our development review process and performance measures associated with that. We have ongoing issues with improving those review times in the development review process and in hiring, like I think most other departments. In particular, we've had a lot of issues in hiring inspector positions, and we've had both of our property maintenance inspector positions have been vacant for a number of months now. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council questions?
That's quite a range, everything from the zoning ordinance to the scooter program.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're engaged in a lot of places right now.
So the transportation projects, sort of the management of those falls under you as well? So Mr. Chambers would fall under your?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Mr. Chambers would fall under your?
Ben Chambers is in Neighborhood Development Services, yeah.
Got it.
So we
Okay.
consider ourselves to be on the planning side. So policies and kind of the beginning stage of kind of answering the question, what projects do we want to do? What are we doing? We also manage the scooter program.
Okay, excellent.
So, I'm sorry. You had mentioned the permitting was down to 2 weeks, and I think for residential and commercial was a month. And what were the highs of that? Because I just think
Yeah.
it should be noted that what difference it is now.
So at our, I'll call it our
You can
lowest
do it. You
point.
can
Our
do
lowest point, we were building permits were around 3 months. And inspections, we were looking out at least 2 weeks to schedule inspections. We're now scheduling inspections largely next day.
Thank you, and that was, it's gotten a lot of compliments on the improved process, and I imagine there would be even more compliments that it's all online, that it will be, in a few weeks.
And building permits are already online.
Yeah.
They've been online since, I'm not going to get this right now, April.
No,
Yeah,
great.
they've been online since April.
If you can share a little insight about the complaints, and I know that I can imagine you get a lot of homestay. Does that look like someone believes that their neighbor is having a homestay and they call? How do you investigate that?
So the key issue each time with homestays is the question of whether the operator actually lives at the address. Remember
More
they-
than 6 months or half the
Yeah,
time?
half the year. The idea is that they have to live there for half the year in order to qualify for a homestay. That's the biggest issue. We get reports from, yes, usually from neighbors suggesting that their neighbor does not live there 6 months out of the year, and then we have to investigate that. And it's a bit of a challenge to get to that, to get an answer to that.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work that you've done in your department.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask about the scooter thing. So we get probably more complaints about scooters and sidewalks than just about anything else. And the question comes back to who's in charge of enforcing that? What should somebody do if they've got a complaint about, somebody's left a scooter in the sidewalk? I can tell you right now that emailing the mayor doesn't help. Not that I wouldn't love to be able to help, but that's not in my lane.
Yeah.
What is the right answer?
So the 311 system, there is a category, and Ben, I'm going to look over here. Yep. So through my CVille app, you can report a misplaced scooter via that. There's also a reporting mechanism printed right there on the scooter as well. The scooter company is responsible for moving that scooter. And in fact, the new aspect of the permit is they've actually instituted a fining system. So when someone finishes their ride, one of the things they're required to do is actually snap a photo of that scooter in its location where it is, right? Before the ride actually officially ends, before their billing, if you will, ends, they have to snap a photo and send that in. And that's kind of the first step the scooter company has to check that is to make sure it's actually been parked correctly. The next thing that happens is if we get a complaint through my CVille or through the number that's on there, the scooter company is responsible for then moving that scooter for rectifying the situation, but they also then put a fine on that rider. And I believe after how many? Yeah, after 4 or 5 misplaced scooters, individual rider is then banned from the system.
So what's somebody, let's say somebody rides a scooter home.
Yep.
And they're living in a residential neighborhood. What are they supposed to do with the scooter?
Not
What
park it in
they've
the
been
sidewalk.
doing is just leaving it in the sidewalk,
Yeah.
or sometimes lying down in the sidewalk.
Right. So when you first sign up with the company to do your first ride, one of the things they've also instituted is an instructional video specifically on how to park the scooter. So your first ride, you actually get a video that tells you how you're supposed to do it, and it warns you that you're going to be fined if you don't do it correctly. The basic premise is don't block the sidewalk. So leave it standing upright. If there's space between the edge of the road and the curb, that's probably the best place to put it, if there's sufficient space there. Otherwise, you put it to one side or the other of the sidewalk.
Either right up against the curb, but in the right-of-way, or on the private property side?
In the right of way.
Okay. I've never used one, so I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah, the people that go walk with me, they know every time I see one, I stop and, so sometimes it's, half a dozen times, putting the scooter either up or out of the sidewalk. So I'm glad that this is being implemented. I think it will help you, so thank you.
Related to the small area plans as well as the possible increase in the number of permits coming through, are you anticipating that any additional funding may be needed in terms of either staff positions or being able to implement small area plans?
So let me start with the small area plans. One, the CIP has a item for small area plans, and I don't anticipate a request to add to that. Staffing levels is something I'm continuing to discuss with the city manager.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Purrier? I did have one other question. You referred to the Downtown Mall Committee, and I have been a sporadic attendee at that committee.
Your attendance has mostly been very good.
Appreciate it. But I'm just wondering, what is the hoped-for product?
So the end result is an action plan that's looking ahead at what are the different projects that we need to engage in towards moving the downtown mall. What would you do to prepare the downtown mall for the next 50 years? That was the kind of setup of
Right.
the effort. It's kind of a plan for plans. So it'll identify and then try to prioritize things like safety lighting, new benches on the mall. One of the big things in there is looking at a new maintenance plan, and we're also looking at that from the perspective of who or what is the correct entity to be at the end of the day managing the mall, and taking into account all the different aspects of what goes on in the mall space.
So, springtime?
We're aiming for January, so
Okay.
coming up very soon.
All right. And if there are then to be some budget pieces attached to that, that would be time to incorporate it into the budget?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
As he looks at me.
Yeah. Well,
Anybody else have any other questions?
James, if you had one or two things that keep you up at night beyond finishing the draft zoning ordinance and thinking about all of that for the next year, what, would you be willing to share those with us?
Aside from me.
No.
I mean, you took away the big one right off the top, right? It's looking at, I think we have, I said, an ambitious agenda for planning projects that we want to engage in order to advance the objectives of the comprehensive plan, right? And the affordable housing plan. I think they're doable, but that's probably what's keeping me up at night.
Yeah.
It's an ambitious agenda of things that we need to do, and I think we do need to do them if we're going to accomplish the things that we want to do, but
Yeah,
it's a lot.
got it. Thank you.
Yep.
And I appreciate all the work that you and your staff have done with the zoning ordinance. It's really been a huge lift, especially you and Missy, your whole gang, so thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Hopefully we're not quite nearing the finish line, but maybe we can see it.
I think we can see it. Yeah.
Any
Hopefully it
questions?
doesn't keep receding.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze.
All right, thank you.
Parks and Rec, Mr. Anthony?
Okay, I believe I have a presentation. Yes, I do.
Here you go.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor Snook, Vice Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity for presenting in front of you the Parks and Rec budget. First and foremost, last year I came to you and I had, I believe that Parks and Rec is essential services. It's very important to the city, just like water, sewer, public safety. We're in the same line. It is vitally important to establish and maintain the quality of life. And then also, we also contribute to economic and environmental well-being within the community. So I like to always start out with that. And again, Parks and Rec, it's a big portfolio. One of the departments that touches a lot of other departments, Public Works Department, Economic Department, Finance Department. So we do a lot of things, and as you can see, that's why we have a budget of close to $13 million. And again, just to give you a snapshot of Parks and Rec, our mission statement is to ensure the quality of life for all, stewardship of public land and parks, and also provide quality recreation experiences. We have roughly around about 27 parks, including Sugar Hollow, Ragged, and Hayworth. We maintain 45 playgrounds. That includes school properties as well. And can you believe it, we only have one full-time employee that takes care of 45 playgrounds within Parks and Rec. We oversee close to 4,000 acres. Mowable acres is roughly about just under 2,000 acres that we mow. That including street mowing, also 250 bypass. So we do a lot. We have over 6 miles of paid trails, over 30 miles of natural trails. And again, we only have one employee, and that is Chris Genzik. We oversee 4 pools, 2 indoor, 2 outdoor, plus 4 splash pads, a regional skate park, and a regional golf course. Regional city market, that's every Saturday. And then also, we also share maintenance with the county. And this is our organizational chart. We have 4 divisions. We have the golf division. We have 2 big divisions, and that is our recreation services. This individual oversees athletics, aquatics, adaptive recreation centers and programs. The other one is park operations, park admin, landscaping, custodial, and construction and planning too. And then we have our administration services, which oversees farmers market, business and marketing, and also administration duties. And then we have our business operation manager that oversees also our special events, not just Parks and Rec special events. Oh, why does it not work? Want to work? There we go. So I'll go into our departmental budget. This is just a snapshot of FY23 budget. Our expenses, as you can see, as I mentioned earlier, it's roughly about just under 13 million. And as you all know, all budgets, we are heavy on personnel, roughly around about close to 8 million on salaries, and we're going to have roughly around 4 million to maintain parks, provide recreational activities, special events. Oops, I think there's something wrong with this clicker. There we go. On our revenue side, we bring in roughly about 1.5 million in revenue, and as you can see, most of our revenue comes from charges. That is when you sign up for a recreational program, that's a charge. A rental fee when you want to enter the pool, when you want to lease property, if we lease property, that's where we get our majority of our funding, our revenue source, and that is through our services. Again, 1.5 million. So that's a good snapshot of Parks and Rec as a whole. My fun part, what's new? I always like to look at the bright side. Glass is always half full. And our department, one that I really invested in is the first one, the master plan, which I'm so excited. You will get a presentation from a consultant tonight in the 6:30 hour. So that is going to set the table for council of how we are going to move through our master plan. And hopefully in 2025, in January, we'll present the master plan to council so that council can adopt our new way looking forward. Again, our master plan is just a roadmap of what the community truly wants within the city of Charlottesville. The other big thing is to look at the department of reorganizing our organizational chart. Our chart has been stagnant for a long time, but in order to be more efficient, more innovative, we have to look at our org chart to see what makes sense of what we do and how we do things. Again, we went through a slump again through COVID, and we're out of COVID. Parks and Rec has only been operating, as I like to say, roughly about 2.5 years now since we closed our doors, and we're roughly about 2.5 years. And now we're looking at seriously, how do we rebrand our department? Where does Charlottesville Parks and Rec fit into the city of Charlottesville and the surrounding? What activities should we offer? What does the community truly want? And again, it's coming at a perfect time, and that's linked up with the master plan. Other exciting news is we're in the process of looking at golf course, trying to outsource golf course. Again, it's a great opportunity, again, efficiencies. Our golf course, our maintenance was always outsourced, and our golf course conditions improved. But at the end of the day, with our expertise, we can only take it to a certain level. Now we're going out to the professionals that does this. Again, Parks and Rec, we do a lot of things, but now we want to take it to the next level, where we let the professionals take over the golf course and take it to the next level. And again, thanks so much for the Invasive Species CIP project. As you can see, a lot of work has been done. We went from goats at Washington and Fry Springs, bless you. Fry Springs, we went to Azalea Park, we went to Jordan, we went to Forest Hills. And again, this is a very important program. It links up with our tree canopy. So we have to look at how do we increase our tree canopy. We want to increase our tree canopy, but we don't take care of invasives. It's counterproductive. So we have to look at first taking care of invasives, at the same time also replanting and increasing our tree canopy. Exciting news, we also added 4 new positions to our portfolio. Challenges. Every department has challenges. One of our challenges, service levels, community offering. Again, as I mentioned, that's one of our biggest struggles. In the next slides, you'll see there's a kind of increase in our services, but not where I'd like to see it, but we are moving in the right direction. The standard of care, we want to try, that's our biggest struggle. From COVID, everybody used our parks. Still today, just had a meeting with the custodian manager. It is November. How's the parks doing? It hasn't changed. Been packed ever since. We can only afford to take care of trash once a day. We'd like to get our standard of care up to twice a day. We only have 3 full-time employees that take care of all our parks. Only 3. So again, we have high standards, but in order for us to get there, we need additional staff. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a new thing, and it's a challenge realigning the department, looking at our goals and our objectives, and driving ourselves to focus on goals and objectives. Staff shortage, hiring rates, working with human resources and to see how we can increase our hiring rates so we can actually get temporary staff on board, and also our full-time staff. We're also looking at flexibility, asking staff, what's your availability? When can you work? And we'll try to figure out how we can assist them, especially in our aquatic division. Our aquatic division with lifeguards. We are looking at all different angles in order to solve the puzzle, but it's still challenging. The last bullet point is retention. Morale is down. We also found out we need to work on our retention program, because we hired 4 or 5 individuals and we're only keeping them for a year and a half. And the question is why? So we're trying to really look into that and how we can support staff and how do we retain them. And that's one of our challenges. Sorry. There we go. So I'm going to focus just, as I mentioned, with our program offerings. So this is all the programs within Parks and Rec, so program levels. So if you look at FY22 to FY23, there's been a roughly about $200,000 increase. which is a positive thing, meaning we are offering more programs, we are being innovative with staff, and try to accomplish different programming so that our community can actually sign up and have programs, so that's a good thing. But I want to move our focus to our scholarship program. So Parks and Rec, we call it a scholarship program, but it's actually a subsidy program because we do not have a line item within our budget that has X amount of dollars. So when you see those numbers of 39 to 40,000, that is just when an individual comes fill out a scholarship, we are just subsidizing the price. I.e., if a program is $10 and someone qualifies for 90%, we are minusing $9 out of Parks and Rec budget and just subsidizing the program for 10. It would be nice to have a true line item for a true scholarship program so we know exactly how much money we have in. And then on the right-hand side, if you look at what's very interesting, in 2022, only 2,000 unique individuals used the program. But FY23, it reduced, and the question was why. We as Park and Rec really need to do a better job of advertising our scholarship rate, and that is one of the things we're working on. Is we need to inform the community that we have this program, and please use the program because it's there. So that was a unique thing that I've noticed. Oopsie. There we go. Again, these are all enrollments. If you look at 19, we were at 10,000, this is before pandemic. Last FY, we were around about 7,000 enrollees, but as you can see, there's an upward trend. In FY23, we're at 9,000, so we are moving in the right direction. And we're hoping to continue on that trajectory, is moving up and to get more programs and more offerings to the community. Last slide is staff levels. As you can see, at the moment we have 16 vacancies in our department. That is a big gap within our department, and we are looking at different ways, as I mentioned, with the challenges in terms of retention, in terms of flexibility. How can we attract employees to work with the City of Charlottesville? And that's my presentation, sweet and short. Do you have any
Thank you.
questions?
Council, questions?
I don't think so. Thank you. It was a very good presentation.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments about the scholarships. I think that, for your budget submittal this year, I think I would like to see just what the numbers would be for that, and see if we can consider it. At least would like to know what it is. And also about the promotion, I would love to, when the dust settles with the zoning ordinance, before next summer and things really heat up, to sit down with you and your staff about ways to connect with the wider community to get the word out, because people ask me about it all the time, and I'm happy to share my network with you about that. And also, you said that you like more staff, but you got 16 short, and the morale is not the best, and I don't think that the master plan that you mentioned delve into that aspect, or is it just the park, the actual physical park? So, but anyway, I think that we probably want to look at what's going on before we go out, and because you don't want to bring them in and things are not where you want it, and they'll leave, so I think you can work with HR or whatever you need to get that straight. So thank you. Thanks.
I have a couple of questions. One of them, Mr. Wade already asked, but as it relates to scholarships, when you are talking about developing that line item, I think you should also include the impact that it currently has. So if I'm a 90% person and I'm only paying $1 and your department is paying 9, I think we need to look at what impact that is currently having on your budget, because you're doing something to help the citizens here. And I would presume, I can't say that you have done this, but you've spoken about morale several times. And are you doing anything internally, like an internal survey, to look at some of the big things? And I know there are a lot of employers in the area that are having problems in hiring people. So that's nothing new, but looking at your morale issue and what we can do to encourage people to apply and to stay, because as you said, you don't want to have a revolving door. And somehow things are getting done, but they're getting done at a cost. Our schools are well maintained on the outside. The facilities are being maintained, but those things are happening at a cost to those employees that are there. And I'm sure that that impacts on the morale as well. So I think we need to do something internally to look at that, because I don't see the issues that you have discussed being addressed through your realignment, unless you perceive that I've got X amount of people over here and I might be able to move them somewhere else so that the impact would be different. I can't say, because I don't know what you and your team are looking at as it relates to realignment. Yes, you have a consultant coming in, but just because the consultant makes a recommendation doesn't mean that that recommendation is going to work within your particular department, and it is just a recommendation. So I think, given the fact that Parks and Recreation in the city of Charlottesville is important, the citizenry depends on the parks, and they use the parks, then we need to be responsible in addressing those issues.
Absolutely. We are working internally of providing surveys. We did a survey, and we just looking at different methods of how we can increase morale, and
Okay.
also working with human resources of how to attract and retain. So
Okay.
that is in the works.
And who is responsible for doing your exit interviews when employees leave? Does the city's HR department do that, or do you have someone internally in your department that does that as well?
At the moment, if it's a full-time employee, it is done by human resources.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
A few questions. The first, you made reference to outsourcing the golf course staff. Could you just get into a little more what the rationale for that is, and what, if any, impact will there be on wages and benefits for those employees who will now be outsourced?
Yeah, good question. Rationale twofold. Number one, we had a retiree of the manager, PGA manager, and then a year later, the golf operations specialist also retired. And we were at the crossroads of saying, okay, do we actually provide employees, or do we have to look at outsourcing? So that was one option of outsourcing. The other option, as I mentioned earlier, was the golf courses. We brought it up to standard in terms of the maintenance, but we need help on the operational side, because we're at that pivotal point of we can only take it to there with our expertise, in-house expertise, and the best option was to outsource that, and it was at, as I like to say, at the point where we had both FTEs that retired, and we looked at that opportunity.
And then, so is it outsourcing that operations as well as the maintenance staff for the golf course? And then what, if any, impact would there be on wages and benefits?
Yeah. So in the RFP, it was labeled that first right of refusal for every staff that works out at the golf course. And they would have to maintain the wage that we have offered them.
Okay. Another question, you mentioned the services provided. One of the things I've heard particularly from Midway Manor, but also other communities, is that Parks and Rec used to offer very regular social activities on a regular program schedule on a weekly basis. And once the pandemic began, that completely went away and has not returned. Is that a factor of staffing shortages or vacancies? Kind of what has been driving that change in that kind of service?
Definitely staff shortages. That's what's driving the factor right now. We have to look at what staff can do, and we also looked at other opportunities of outsourcing as well. So in our recreational services, we have a few recreational activities that are outsourced because we just could not meet the demand. But that is the main focus, was that we could not get staff.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, in the presentation, you had mentioned, in addition to vacancies and staffing being one of the challenges, a need for reorganization. I know across Virginia and the country, the pandemic really walloped Parks and Recs departments, and there's a lot of recovery needed from that. Could you just speak in more detail on what kind of reorganization is needed and what that may entail?
Yeah. So when I talk about reorganization, I'm looking through the lens of being more efficient. Right now, as you can see, we have, for example, in the parks unit, when it comes to our capital improvement projects, we have roughly about 3 people taking care of the capital projects within parks, but we're not being efficient. So we're trying to figure out how can we get a capital improvement manager that is that individual's job, so that we can be more efficient, especially when we work with VDOT CIP projects, when we work with grants, so that there is someone actually the lead, and that's the individual's job. So that's one line. The other line is looking at our org chart as it is. Does it still make sense in terms of where we have operations mixed in with programming, or do we split it out where we have programming line whereby all programmers report to one individual, so that our programming can be consistent across the board, so we can have a quality of services to the community. And also when it comes to moving the department forward of expanding programs, we are much more efficient and effective. Same side on operations. Operations is recreation facilities, making sure we are maintaining that, the facilities, the assets that we do have, and coming up with a true PM program so that our facilities will be here for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you. I appreciate the acknowledgement of that there's a lot of difficult work to do in terms of getting the department where we all want it to be. I think Parks and Rec is quietly, a very critical part of the social fabric of Charlottesville in terms of providing, relative to a lot of other jobs, living wage jobs for a number of years. I hope that efficiencies and outsourcing don't really impact that in a dramatic way, which is, I know you already know, it could also have morale and retention impacts. Yeah, I'm definitely supportive of us trying to really dig in with you to figure out how can we invest in the department to get it where we want to be. Because it's really one of the few things where you don't have to be affluent to take advantage of the services. Even something small like Midway Manor, I mean, that was, seems like a small thing, but before the pandemic, that was part of people's lives. And when that went away, some people were just completely isolated. The quality of their life really went down. So I know that everything you all do has a huge impact on a lot of people in the community. So thank you.
I have one last question. In doing your outsourcing, particularly when it comes to the golf course, because a lot of people use our golf course. It's a very nice golf course. But that being said, when you do outsourcing, is there a cost savings to your department that you utilize any savings in another area, or is it negligible?
So the golf division is an enterprise fund. So the savings that the golf course is reinvested within the golf course, infrastructure and assets.
Okay.
And that's where we use the funds.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
In recent years, have we had to put money from the general fund into the golf operation?
Yes, and I believe we still owe the city, I believe, $75,000 to pay off that debt.
Okay.
And we're hoping to pay that off by the end of this year.
Yeah. I remember during COVID, of course, you had basically no business,
Yeah,
but you still had expenses.
that's correct.
A couple of months ago, I'm thinking it was roughly around June or July, but I don't remember specifically. I got a whole bunch of emails from people who were using Parks and Rec programs, who were saying that people who were on half-time, part-time contracts had hit the limit, had to stop doing what they were doing. It was and they wanted me as mayor to figure out how to fix this. And my solution was to send an email to you and to Sam Sanders and say, you all fix this. How did that get fixed?
Sure. We looked within our temporary budget is to figure out what can we do to solve the problem. We created 4 new positions with our temporary dollars in order to meet those needs, because again, the policy is set, but also we have services to render, and if there are certain times and operational times we have to look within. So what we did was we used our temporary dollars. We added 2 full-time lifeguards. We added 2 part-time instructors, so that they become part-time or full-time, and then they'll be able to work long hours.
I remember a couple of years ago, one of the issues that we kept talking about, but because of COVID, we weren't really in a position to do anything about, was this problem of having a lot of people, particularly in Parks and Rec, who were not full-time employees, and who, in some cases, had put together 2 or 3 or 4 part-time Parks and Rec jobs, getting more than 40 hours a week, but never in one program to get benefits and all the rest of that stuff. And we had talked a couple of years ago about fixing that. Did that ever get fixed?
I don't think so.
That's the work that we're still planning to do. If I could, I'll step in a little bit and just say that there is some structural work that needs to be done. So as Mr. Anthony has referenced, reorganization, this is something that's been talked about for quite a while. And I can say for the time that I've been here, we've been talking about it. There's some extra steps that need to be taken, but ultimately what was done that he described was taking temporary dollars and moving people over to a permanent status so that they could work more hours. We were able to work that out with some people. I don't know that we dealt with every single person that was in that category, but there's still some ongoing work that needs to be done. And I'll also point out that Rihanna is our deputy director, who has been serving as our director for an extended period of time. So I take this moment to thank him for stepping up as our director has been out on extended leave. And that is part of why some things haven't been resolved at this moment, because he's trying to keep his side of the shop running while also keeping the entire department running. There is some serious work in the culture space that needs to be worked out in that department, and he hasn't been a part of it because everybody's a subject of it. But we do have a consultant that is engaged in conducting a cultural assessment on the department, and we'll be getting that report out very soon.
Okay.
And looking to implement whatever recommendations come from it as well.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Anthony.
thank you.
Thanks, Rihanna.
Next up, Stephen Hicks, Public Works.
The Leaf Man.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've been in the acting role for Public Works and the interim role for the city manager, interim deputy city manager for operations. And as a result, the Public Works Group, they've been putting this presentation together. And so while I would have a desire to do it, I'm going to turn it over to Avery. But we're going to be here, Avery Thompson, and we're going to be here to answer any questions or anything we need to do.
Okay?
All right, thank you, Stephen. All right. Hello, everyone. We appreciate you taking the time to host us this evening so we may brief you on the state of public works for the city. My name is Avery Thompson. I'm a management analyst within the Public Works Administration Division, and I will be presenting to you on behalf of Public Works. Since we're in the current process of hiring a director, a few of my colleagues on the department leadership team, as well as Sam and Stephen, are here to provide with further context and answer some questions as needed. From administration, Aaron, Ron, and Sarah, they make up the administration team. Crystal runs our environmental division, and Jack, engineering. So we'll take some questions at the end, so if there's anything more technical that I cannot answer, they'll be here to help. So,
The infamous clicker.
There we go.
oh, too far. Too far. All right, so here you'll see some of the topics we'll discuss tonight. First, we'll cover a little bit about who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Then we'll go into some of the budget aspects. Next, we'll mention some of the common challenges that our department faces as we conduct our business. Then we'll move to factors we believe that will drive our future success. And to end, we'll share some of our wins and successes we've had over the past year or so that we're excited about, and then answer your questions to finish up. Like I said, additionally, if we don't happen to have any answer for you here tonight, we will make a note of it and be sure to follow up with you after tonight to get the answers that you need. So with that said, let's get started. Depending on the clicker, I guess. There we go. So this is how Public Works is organized. We have one director that oversees the department. It didn't go? Nice, okay.
It slipped back again.
I apologize.
It's perfectly okay. It's technology. We
It's gonna stay?
Okay,
Okay, we're gonna stay. Okay.
here we go.
This is how Public Works is organized. We have one director that oversees the department, the admin office that supports the director as well as the entire department, and then we have 6 different divisions. The numbers you see here for each division includes everyone from front lines all the way up to division managers. Due to the nature of the projects that we do, there's a lot of collaboration amongst the divisions. For example, facilities maintenance and facilities development work closely and coordinate on many repair and replacement projects throughout the city. As you can see, a majority of our employees reside in public service and the facilities maintenance division. And for each division, typically, like for example, FM is responsible for the maintenance and repair of 58 city and school buildings. Engineering oversees about $100+ million in projects, with roughly 30 ongoing projects. Facilities development is responsible for the design and construction of projects related to those 58 city and school buildings, including the $72 million Buford reconfiguration project. Public service is responsible for maintaining street and sidewalk and stormwater infrastructure. Environmental sustainability promotes the Council Vision 2025 for a Green City, as well as the City of Charlottesville's Climate Action Plan. And Fleet manages the City of Charlottesville's fleet, including the school's fleet of school buses.
Do we know what that actually points to?
That's a good question. I am not entirely positive.
It seems that if
It's
they go.
pointing it up in the air.
It seems that they go this way.
This way?
It works.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit about who we are and what we do. Here is our why we do it. Public Works has been currently working with city management to align our vision, missions, and goals with the city's overall strategic plan. Here you'll see our current established mission statement and goals. We believe these are core foundations of the identity of Public Works Department. This drives our decision-making at the organizational level and stands as a reference for each division within the department to utilize as they are translating city-level goals down to the divisional level. Next week, we are conducting focus groups within our department to gather feedback from all levels of employees on what we can do within the department to improve efficiencies and make adjustments to foster a more productive environment for our employees to provide the best quality service to the Charlottesville community. We expect to have that feedback ready to present to the city manager's office by the 22nd of December, and this will enable our department to hit the ground running in the new calendar year with a renewed sense of purpose, as well as a set of tangible goals that we can track our progress with. So we're really excited about that opportunity. So here we'll see a look at the current FY24 operating budget for our department. Our total expenditures were up about 9% from FY23, and our total revenue was up about $200,000. Inflation was a notable effect for us last year, and we foresee that to continue. About 70% of our revenue comes from refuse collection services. And at the top, you'll notice that our CIP budget is roughly $153 million. So that affects our operating budget a lot to maintain that. Between the VDOT projects, schools, and other facilities-related projects, that's where the majority of our time and money is spent. One of the initiatives I was tasked with since I was hired back in February is working with VDOT and our budget office to help ensure we are effectively tracking, completing, and closing out projects within the Public Works Department that have been completed, as well as being the liaison between Public Works and Budget Office, which provides a clear communication line between our two offices, which can streamline the process and allow us to provide more comprehensive financial picture to the City Manager's office for them to make critical funding decisions.
Back one. There we go.
So, many of the challenges Public Works faces are issues that won't ever go away, but we hope that we can improve our response and flexibility in finding solutions for these. Here are a couple examples for the categories you see up above. The Market Street parking garage has a chiller. Recently that needed to be replaced. The project came in at more than 2 times the expected budget. Material costs in previous fiscal years, asphalt has increased 27%. Traffic marking has increased 20%, and stone backfill materials increased 15 to 20%. We also expect the city's solid waste contract to increase significantly for both curbside collection as well as waste disposal based on market rates, and lead time on vehicles for fleet are roughly about 8 to 12 months. For technology, we are researching solutions on that front that we can use department-wide to better improve efficiency and uniformity amongst the divisions. Which can most importantly save the department time and man hours that we can use on completing projects. For example, tools that we can utilize would be for such things as data analysis and work order management. As it stands now, we currently take a more reactive approach on the maintenance issues that arise in the city. Ideally, we would like to eventually get to a point where we can increase the percentage of projects or tasks to be more proactive. We are currently evaluating options and changes we can make to improve this on the operational level. We do foresee this to continue to be an issue. I've touched a little bit on the interdepartmental coordination some already, but the main takeaway here for us is to ensure our entire department is on the same page when working with other city departments. For example, if facilities development is going to be needed on step 3 of a process, making sure they are aware that it's in the pipeline as the project is just getting started. This can prevent future obstacles that could arise, and they can give their expertise early on, and that can be incorporated from the plans from the very beginning. Finally, community expectations is another issue that will be ongoing. Public Works always strives to be as clear and communicative as possible when we do a project, especially when it comes to the pace and scale. Citizens rely on accurate timelines and costs from city officials, so the more detailed information and justifications we can provide hopefully will reduce the intense or time-consuming questions and inquiries city staff receives. Staffing shortages are not unique to our department nor any place of employment these days. Currently, we're about 80% employment rate. Sarah has been working with HR to update and post our openings for the department. Some of our vacancies have been open for hundreds of days. We are kind of at the mercy of the number of people that apply. However, we are working on getting job description updated to better reflect the responsibilities that they would entail in those roles. And we're doing everything we can within our control to fill our open positions. With that said, one serious concern is shortages of emergency personnel in the event of a snowstorm. We are currently working on implementing a potential creative solution, but the contributing factors for that include CDL license requirements, temporary staffers not to be able to be retained, competition on both the private and public sector, and wages. While those are many difficult challenges, we are optimistic in our ability to combat those obstacles and find success. There are several key factors we believe will drive our success for our department. Focusing on delivering projects on time and on budget will be vital in our progression. We need to be able to provide accurate timelines and costs within the best of our forecasting abilities so that leadership as well as the public has the best information possible. If we can deliver projects on time and on budget, that typically indicates all the moving pieces are working together effectively. We're in the transition of moving towards a unified technology system for our department as a whole, which will also provide decision makers with more recent and accurate information for them to utilize. Also, we are encouraging our staff to seek out training and professional development opportunities to increase their skill set. We are also in the early stages of researching internal staff development and training programs to better prepare them for their current roles. Widespread action in accordance with the city's climate action plan and initiatives will also be vital in our success to adapt going forward. So, some of the highlights and the successes and the good news from Public Works over the last year. Some of the recent positions that we have filled: climate program specialist, parts manager for fleet, project manager for engineering, and project manager for facilities development. We have a number of honors and awards for the hard work our Public Works folks have done. Facilities maintenance received an award from the APWA for Best Project under $5 million for their handling of the Smith Recreational Air and Quality Project. Environmental Sustainability has a number of awards and initiatives, including community engagement projects for the Climate Action Plan, the EPA Water Sense Award, the DEQ VEEP Sustainability Partner, the Resilient Together Initiative of Albemarle County and UVA, and the Shanks Branch Tributary Stream Restoration. Some of the technological improvements we've had: Ron's been working and been instrumental on this, as well as Jonathan. Converted traffic signs to the GIS inventory, implemented Geotab for leaf and snow removal, which also helps with our winter operations crew for their response time, shift change issues, and any reducing citizen callbacks for those. And we've also automated the traffic sign fabrication that used to be done manually, so that signs can be generated at night or while crews are in the field, so that the time reduction there is very beneficial. Some of the construction and improvements that are wins: about 570 or so sidewalk hazard repairs in the past year, about 250 asphalt patchings, potholes, or new installations. And the Climate Action Plan, Charlottesville's first community plan adopted as a part of the comprehensive plan. This plan provides a framework for the Charlottesville community, how they can work together to achieve our emissions goals. And capital funding awarded for projects and initiatives such as the LED streetlight conversion, solar deployment, grant match for urban forest management plan, and community EV infrastructure planning, and more. So that is the biggest rundown. Any questions, comments, concerns we can answer for you?
Excuse me, thank you for that presentation. It was very helpful. So the engineering department, I guess we do some in-house engineering ourselves, and we also do engineering review for outside consultants that submit to us for site plans. Is that the case?
The inside engineering we do, actually, the design work would be
Okay.
very minimal. It'd be for a small project.
Got it.
And Jack Dawson oversees it. Mainly the work that we do for site plan review, we do in-house. We have engineers who will review the plans, make comments, and work with the private development community.
And that's in this team versus?
This is our team. It's in the engineering.
Okay.
The engineering work, when it comes to some of our capital improvement program projects, we also use outside consultants. We have
Got it.
project managers who manage those projects, both for facilities and also for some of the VDOT projects that we manage, as well as our ADA projects, and also some of our sidewalk projects, and also Parks and Rec.
Got it.
So most of the work that we do is outsourced to consultants and contractors.
Yeah. And so, for example, let's just say the ADA work or sidewalk work, would your project manager work within the facilities development group, or would they be part of the sidewalks group?
This would be part of the sidewalks group.
Okay.
And Also, depending on how it's funded, will also determine which group. I know Ben's group takes on a lot of the planning phase of it. And then Brennan, our traffic engineering group,
Got it.
they will focus on some of the traffic signals, some of the ADA and curb cuts. And so it really depends on the bucket of how funds are being. But the ADA transition plan that we're looking at, the initiative, we are looking at how we're going to be able to pull those ADA budgets and prioritize any other improvements that are needed, as well as our sidewalk.
Got it. And can you tell us briefly, if it's not too complicated, the software that you're planning to use to streamline and integrate what the name of the software is, if y'all know it off the top of your head? If you don't, that's fine.
We don't use any software per se, because we rely on the consultants to do it. Although we do have
I was talking about more like the project management piece, not the design piece.
yes, and we're working on a kind of a software system, but it's
Got it.
more of an in-house database system that
I
allows
see.
us to track projects and stuff.
Okay.
But
I see.
there hasn't been a formal software program that the city uses citywide.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
You had a couple of, it's good to see that the leaf collection is going on. People are really happy about that. So it's a great service that you provide. You mentioned that, and I may have missed the details. You said 70% of the profit or something comes from bulk, assume it's bulk pickup? Can you explain that a little bit?
I believe it came from refuse collection. I'm not exactly sure of the breakdown. I'll be happy to get the numbers
Yeah,
on
it'd
this.
be good to
I
hear
assume
that.
that's the amount that we pay for the sticker or whatever.
Correct.
And also the fees from large trash pickups, when you schedule them, you used, well, back in the day,
real
there was one
detail.
thing, but now it's another thing.
30
Yeah.
years ago, it was free.
Yes, and now it's another thing, yes.
That's well organized, by the way. We've
Yes,
had
it
to
is.
use it before. And I don't know if it's Parks and Rec or your department that handles the the trash cans in the street that need to be emptied.
I believe that's public service. Jonathan, correct?
Yeah, that basically is contracted service. Federal
Okay.
Waste Management, we're talking about the citizen trash cans.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
contracted service, yeah.
So I think that, you just might want to get them to, sometimes some of them are high traffic areas, which is a good thing, it's full, so. In the Belmont Bridge, I see that it's,
Tootling along.
yeah, it's almost done. I can see that now, they're just kind of doing the final work on it, so. That's all I had. Thank you all so much. You do a lot, one of those things that if you weren't there, people would really know about it. And I'm hoping that we have one or two good snowfalls. Not real bad that people get hurt, but we need to, no, staff is like, no, but just.
Juan, quit while you're ahead, okay? I live on a corner lot, okay? I live on a corner lot, so I know what a snowfall means for the sidewalks on my corner lot. Quit while you're ahead, Juan, stop.
The Mayor,
stop.
if you don't mind, I would like to touch base. I mean, we will be doing a dry run, but I understand the community members, they have high expectations, and there's some things we just can't control right now. One, obviously the weather. But outside of that, we are limited on our resources to address aggressive snow removal plan. Now, we have a plan. It may not be at the level that we've seen in the past, but we realize that everything's on the table when a snow event does happen. But we're struggling to get CDL drivers, as Avery shared. We're competing with VDOT, who's willing to pay a tremendous amount hourly rate. And also they already compete with all the contracts. Even if we were trying to put out a contractor to get a crew to push snow, they wouldn't even probably entertain just because they're already absorbed by VDOT. So I share that. I know everyone would like to see snow, but not here.
No.
And it's just a challenge. And so we're going to do everything we can, working with all of the operations department, including Parks and Rec, to do our best. But
Thank
I
you.
hear you. It's pretty, but it's a headache.
We'll just have a dusting. We
Yeah,
won't
dusting.
have a major storm. Is that okay? So I would like to say thank you to your department for being so responsive. We have varying age groups in our neighborhood. And one of our neighbors was able to share with me when the leaf collection was going to take place. So we've all in our neighborhood been feverishly working this weekend because it's happening this week. So I went online and did the things to text, and within 2 minutes I got a text back and all the dates when the leaf collection was going to take place. So whoever is responsible for doing that, they did a really good job. And I'd also like to say thank you to the people that do the leaves, because it's a lot of work and I know it's hard work, but whenever you see them, you know, they'll nod or they'll wave or whatever, you know, and I know they've got other things to do, but maybe they just say, you know what? And so I appreciate the work that they do, and just that they acknowledge the people that live here, you know? So just thank you, and please tell them how appreciative we are of the hard work that they do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Question for the climate team, obviously under Public Works, our climate action plan calls for that to kind of diffuse through every department and everything we do. I'm just curious if there's any thoughts on what, if anything, would need to change to kind of better integrate climate work across all departments and all kind of decisions that council is making.
Thank you for the question. So one of the things we did to start with was to publish a work plan that reflected the work that's being done by other departments. And as we hit the end of the year and there's an expectation for a report out, that will include coordination with those departments that are leads. I think that there are many ways that we can integrate it, and I think this is part of the hard work ahead of us, whether that's creating an internal climate team that has representation from all the departments. Certainly, it includes working with the community partners as well, because a lot of the work is being done and can be leveraged. I think that we've had conversations about looking at capital investments through a climate lens, looking at other decisions through a climate lens. So this is really year one of trying to implement that plan. But if you have ideas, open to them.
I don't.
Okay.
And just one other question, obviously there's a backlog of projects as well as maybe some challenges in terms of relationship with VDOT. What if anything is going on right now to address those issues?
So, first thing is we meet on a regular basis, at least once a month with VDOT to go over projects. The second thing is that we worked with VDOT to come up with more like an action plan to identify what the city's going to do and what VDOT's going to do to be successful and to deliver projects on time and on budget. And so our relationships are strong. I mean, I would have to say it's one of the better relationships in a while. And they recognize the struggle we're having. And it's just not us, it's other localities. Just because of the hiring market, it's hard to get project managers. But we do have a lot of projects in front of us. And so we are assigning projects. We're hiring project managers. So anyone who's listening, if you're a project manager, by all means apply at the City of Charlottesville. So we do have deliverable dates on projects now, and we are tasked to deliver projects on time and on budget, so whatever it means. Our relationship, the big role plays also in the city manager's office. It's been very clear on both sides, if we have any obstacles in front of us where the projects are slowing down for whatever reason, internal, external, that those issues would be bubble up to the deputy city manager and to the city manager's office to try to navigate the process, because there's shared responsibility in delivering projects. So I think our relationships have changed. We still have a long road to go as in delivering projects just because of the schedules, but we will see a turnaround on that. And we've been working with VDOT on a regular basis. I mean, frequently. I would say at least once a week we touch base with VDOT, so it's been good.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know all the details, but the Planning District Commission, I guess, have been talking about VDOT Smart Scale, some pretty dramatic changes going on. Does the department feel comfortable in terms of being able to adjust to whatever those significant changes may be? I don't really know if there's any implications in terms of kind of adjusting how applications are done and the impact on scoring and whatnot.
We met with VDOT about 3 weeks ago to discuss Smart Scale, and we are looking at pursuing some application process for it and what our capacity can do to manage those projects. So VDOT's on board, and I know that's Ben's area of expertise, but we're not going to pass it up if we have opportunity to apply for more projects.
Thank you.
And I had one question, just a picky little thing, and I'm curious. There is something that you all seem to be doing in a systematic way around the city, around manholes and manhole covers and so on, that ends up with, at least on Greenbrier Drive, things that haven't gotten asphalted back over again. And I'm wondering, first of all, what's going on? Is there some ongoing maintenance of manholes that is being conducted citywide?
This may be a utility question.
Probably a combination.
So I guess there could be. I can check it and get back with you if you don't mind.
I mean, it seemed very organized. There were 3 in a row on
Right.
Greenbrier Drive between Greenbrier School and Rio Road.
Okay.
And they all got operated on at about the same time. And I thought, gee, this must be some organized thing going on.
Was there trucks associated with the work? I mean, large trucks?
Yeah.
So it was probably inspection of our sewer lines, or it could be inspection of our storm lines. I can get you the
Well,
specifics.
they dug
but-
up around the.
Oh, I know what this
they
is.
They jackhammered stuff around.
Yeah. So we're replacing framing covers associated with storm lines, and I assume that's what it is. We have a long backlog of that.
Okay.
And actually, I need to check though, because it may be associated with sewer. So I'll get back with you if
Whatever.
that's okay.
I mean,
Sorry, I don't know, but
I know
can
we have
check.
talked from time to time about a number of different utility systems
Mm-hmm.
that have ongoing schedules for replacement and maintenance and trying to finish,
That's right.
And I was just curious whether that was one of those.
Yeah, I can get back with you on
Okay.
what the specifics
Tell them to get back
is.
out there with the asphalt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next, I'd like to just speak to the VDOT issue because the public is watching and it is important for us to make sure that we continue to help manage expectations. This VDOT exercise has been quite a task, I will say. It's occupied a lot of my time, and I prioritized it a long time ago because the leadership change that occurred within our district office was right around the same time that I came. And in hearing the various concerns, it was really assessment. That was what was most important for me, in that it was identifying what our team needed, what issues were they facing. There were a number of issues that they were facing, including past decisions not being made to their benefit so that they could move forward and get work done, as well as not having all the hands that they needed to get the work done. But bigger part of the issue is that we have a huge portfolio. Our portfolio is probably too big, to be perfectly honest. And we have edited that portfolio and probably still potentially need to do that, but I'm not going to say that. We probably still need to do that a little bit just to be able to get it within our grips so that we can handle getting it done. But as we've been doing that at the motivation that we've been given by VDOT to get better so that we don't appear on a bad list, which has been the threat that we've been facing for quite some time, is that a list could be produced and Charlottesville could rank high on that list, and we don't want to be on that. But at the same time, VDOT has been trying to fix some things internally, and in doing so, they've been making adjustments to their performance measures and maintenance, and it feels heavy-handed at times because they're trying to fix their own issues while also trying to crack the whip a little bit on the rest of the programs across the state. So it's really about alignment. It's about balancing the priorities. So some of that will mean that we will be telling our residents that we can't take on that project right now. That is meant not to be, we're not interested, we're unwilling, but at this time, it is just not the right thing for us to do with managing the workload that we have. we can get through some of those things and we'll have room to go back and add more projects. But VDOT has warned us in their scoring model that if we don't have what we currently have as a portfolio working well, they're going to be reluctant to continue to approve projects coming into that portfolio. So we have to be real about that, and we have to maintain the priority that that requires of us to become more efficient and to make sure that we're producing these projects on schedule.
Thank you.
So how do you make that adjustment? Because you said that you felt the portfolio was a little large and that it probably needs to be streamlined some more. So do you have an internal matrix that helps you say, okay, we've got 100 things in the portfolio, but we really should only have 50, how you scale it back to the 50? You know, I'm an example person. I need.
Well, we have a very nice Excel workbook that will blow your mind.
Okay.
And it follows the traffic management system of red, yellow, green.
Okay.
And when I first looked at it, I saw way too much red, but thankfully I can report I see green.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. But I think that's what we've been continuing to work on, and we're trying to figure out what the right steps are, including shifting staff around and putting priorities in different places so that we can get some extra attention paid to things. So it's a work in progress, and I feel good about where we are. So I'm saying that to the team as well as to the public, that we can do this. We'll get there. It's just a matter of time, but it's been a lot, and it's delicate work that has to be done.
Get her done.
That's right.
Thank you. So, ready for the last presentation? Ms. Hildebrand, bring you back up again. Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, team.
So Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Councilors, I'm happy to talk about the Department of Utilities. I'm Lauren Hildebrand, the Director of Utilities. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. Oh, my.
There you go.
Bingo.
Yay. Okay. Our vision for the Department of Utilities is to provide outstanding utility services in the Charlottesville community. Our mission is the Department of Utilities is committed to providing the Charlottesville community with safe, reliable, and sustainable utility services by dedicated and knowledgeable staff. Currently, we have across the 4 utilities, 14,800 customers are served with water, 14,700 customers are served with wastewater, 21,300 customers are served with natural gas. As most of you know, not only do we serve customers in the city, but in Albemarle County, and we bill 15,000 customers for stormwater fees. A little overview with the org chart. We have 99 full-time employees, of which a little over 75% are associated with operations or field crews. So the bulk of our utility is to support operations. And so, you know, with the office staff, the remaining FTEs, they're engineers, they're regulatory compliance folks, GIS technicians. There are also administrative people that handle our procurement contracts. We have outreach people, as well as people that just support the operations staff, because that's our key role in utilities. I want to go over some of our core programs and services. We obviously maintain and repair all the infrastructure, all the underground infrastructure associated with the 4 utilities. We provide emergency operations 24/7. If someone calls in and they see a water leak, natural gas leak, sanitary sewer overflow, or a backup, or something associated with a drainage issue, they can get a response. We have on-call people 24/7 to respond. We provide safety training. We are required by OSHA as well as state and federal regulations to provide safety training associated to our crews. We provide a 24/7 utility call center. Anyone can call 434-970-3800 and get a live person. We have 5 dispatchers that work a rotating shift, and they can answer any questions, or if you have an emergency, we will make sure that you get a response. We provide GIS asset management. This is something I'll go into detail on a later slide, but I just want to mention it's one of our core services. We also provide meter reading and maintenance. We read our meters monthly. It's an AMR system, so it was a system that was put in about 20 years ago, and it's a drive-by system, and it works pretty well. We are evaluating an AMR system, which is kind of an automatic system, but we haven't made that transition yet because it's still kind of on the leading edge of technology. Albemarle County Service Authority out in the county is implementing that. They've been implementing it for the last few years, and we're going to see how it works for them in this topography. But I will say, along with metering, we provide maintenance because as meters age, they slow down, so you can decrease your revenues. So we try to look at the sweet spot where we have to change out a meter, natural gas meter maybe 20 years, water meters about 10 to 15 years, but we have a regular maintenance program associated with our meters. Capital improvement to infrastructure. About 15 years ago, we spent very little money when it came to water, wastewater, or stormwater infrastructure. And now we have a pretty aggressive program associated with those three utilities. I might add, too, that 20 years ago, we replaced our entire natural gas system, except for as some of you know, the last approximately a mile that's located in West Main, which we were fortunate to recently get a PHMSA grant, so we'll be replacing it in the next few years. But I'll go over a little bit more on a later slide about the capital improvement program. We also coordinate with Ravenna Water and Sewer Authority and Albemarle County Service Authority. We also do development site plan review and inspection. We also provide annual budget planning, and we prepare an annual rate report that you folks see every June when we set the rates for the next year. Regulatory compliance is key across the 4 utilities, and I'll go over a little bit on that on a later slide. And utilities outreach and customer engagement is also key, and we have in-house staff that are very talented that provide our outreach. Each utility is funded by rates or fees. They're what's considered enterprise funds, so we get no funding from the general fund. For example, if somebody pays a water rate, it goes strictly to funding the water operations, Ravenna costs, debt service associated with maintaining the water infrastructure. We have shared resources among the 4 utilities during very critical emergencies. We're customer service driven, where we provide a high level of satisfaction that's measured by our annual customer satisfaction survey. We do this every year in February. We've done it for the last 5 or 6 years, and it provides valuable information to us. For example, several years ago, we realized a lot of the comments were associated with, we want a better online billing portal. We want to be able to pay our bills online. We want to be able to go paperless. So in 2021, we rolled out a new system, and people, as you could see, 98% in the last survey are very satisfied with our new system, which we're pleased about. Another example where we've used the customer satisfaction survey, several years ago, we couldn't figure out why were people rating the value of our sewer service at in the 80s. Couldn't figure it out. So where all the other utilities are in the 90s. So we thought, we're just going to start letting people know what we do from a wastewater standpoint. The fats, oils, and grease program, this cleaning TV of the sewers, and so we started doing that. Now the numbers are in the 90s. So we do use the survey to feed what we might want to make improvements on. I might also mention that in the last survey, politeness and courteousness of staff is 98%. Overall responsiveness to any questions is 98%. The ease of contacting department staff is 100%, and staff's knowledge and technical competence in the last survey was 100%. And I often look at these things and I think every year from one year to the other, they're always really high, and then the next year they're higher. And I think, well, we're obviously doing the right thing. So anyway. Over the 4 utilities, we manage a budget that's $65.6 million. And you got a lot of detail of this during the rate setting this last year. I want to go over some of our accomplishments, and I also call this kind of the ongoing initiatives because these are also still in the works. But I mentioned about our investment in infrastructure, and it's really to minimize long-term operational costs and emergency expenditures. And over time, we've seen that our expenditure, that the money we spend to support our capital improvement program over the last 15 years has really paid off. Our water leaks have decreased. Our sanitary sewer overflows have all but, gone away. We used to have hundreds of sanitary sewer overflows when I started here 16 years ago, and we're down to very minimal ones every year. And then we've also spent a lot of money on our stormwater infrastructure to handle drainage issues. And you could tell based on our customer satisfaction survey that people find our systems reliable. It's 99% in the last survey related to water and sanitary sewer, and natural gas was 100%. But we also want to balance this major expenditure and make sure that our rates are considered fair and a good value. And you can see based on the last survey, water was 97%, sewer was 94%, and natural gas was 96% as far as the value that people thought. A little bit about our engagement or outreach that we do initiatives. I think this is an accomplishment. When the online billing system was rolled out, we rolled out a monthly e-newsletter. We've got 9,200 subscribed customers that receive our pertinent information. We try to time the information. Like right now, we're developing something for the November, and it's always about fats, oils, and greases because people are cooking around the holidays, and we want to make sure they don't dump that fats, greases down the drain. So they'll get an e-newsletter on that around the 10th of the month. Our average open rate, if you know what these terms are, people open them up, is 62%. Industry standards in the 30s. So people are reading what we send them in an e-newsletter. I want to mention also in the 2022 Gas Safety Public Awareness Survey, 95% of the surveyed residents were able to identify correctly the smell of natural gas. And we're required to do this survey by the federal government. In 2006, it was 39%. Of course, I always say this was because Flickr was developed and born in 2007. And became the face of our public awareness program for natural gas. In the last 2 years, we also developed an energy saving tree program. This is where we give 200 to 250 trees away, and this is the program where people are so happy to get these trees. They come in on a Friday or Saturday, and you've never seen so many happy people. And our staff really like to work this program. We have volunteers from our staff because people are just so happy to get these trees and take them home and plant them. And this is where, where they have this, they can decide where they want to plant them on their property to maximize the shade or the wind protection from their house and get the most bang for the buck from an energy efficiency standpoint. This past year, we were the winner of the 2023 CMA Award of Excellence for this program. We coordinate this program with the Department of Parks. They help us decide what trees to get that will be great for this program. And then if people don't come and get the trees in a timely manner, they find a home for our tree. They actually go out and plant it. So we're thankful that Department of Parks helps us with this program. We also target postcards to 3,300 households to promote energy efficiency programs as well. And we found with our trending, just looking at what people really look at, postcards are the best way to go if you're trying to target a special program. We have the ability to develop those postcards and get them out when we're trying to promote something special. Another accomplishment or ongoing initiative is meeting and exceeding all regulatory compliance. We want to ensure our water quality exceeds the standards through maintenance of the distribution system. And I think a lot of this is kind of out of sight, is that, our water, wastewater people, because they can work on both, and stormwater folks, they work on the three. They have to have that capability, because just for backup purposes. Even during the flushing exercise or repair of a line, there can be a misstep by a maintenance worker that can impact your water quality. So these people have to be specially trained that there's not an impact to the water quality. And we've been really good about training these people, and they've been receptive to that training. In the last year, we've had some detailed frequent State Corporation Commission inspection. This is on the natural gas utility. We've actually had 3 major inspections that have happened over the last year. One was for our operator qualification, which is our training program for the natural gas workers that demonstrate they are qualified to work on the infrastructure. Another one was our public awareness program. This is where you can smell the natural gas. That's the whole public. It's all very involved. And those are week-long audits we go through. And then we had in the last year a 2-week-long audit by SEC personnel that looks at our field operations. We had no findings or recommendations from any of those inspections, and I can say that no other natural gas utility in this state had those kind of comments where there were no findings. We work real hard to make sure we don't have any findings. And then there's the EPA-led service line inventory. You may have read a lot about this in the news, where EPA has brought down regulations to make sure that everybody knows if they have any lead within their system. And I am very pleased to say, based on great records prior to me, we have no lead service lines in the city system. They did an inventory back in the day by a professional, and there's documented records that have no lead services. Now, but with that said, we're also required to look at the private system. This is from the meter to the household, things we don't own. And we can say that 35% of those private owned lines have been verified with no lead, but anything built prior to 1988 is going to require some investigation. We have to make sure that lines are investigated and have all that data into the state office, which then reports to EPA. It's Virginia Department of Health, and all of that has to be completed by October 2024. So my staff is working diligently on that inventory right now.
Does that mean you will be going and trying to figure out the other 65%?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But there are means to do that. But yeah, we're in the midst of doing that right now. We also have innovative applications of technology and asset management GIS team works on. This is where we utilize cutting-edge technology to enhance the data collection between the field crews and the office crews, so all of that can be downloaded. And we have developed 22 applications by our GIS team, and this was done in-house so we can increase efficiencies. For example, if we are installing any infrastructure, they could take a picture of it. That's automatically uploaded into our system. There's applications that have drop downs that we could check off what they may have found. We also have applications associated with our clean and TVing for sewer lines to make sure that they know where they need to go next, so that we're not redoing a system that we did 3 years ago, because we try to get through the system every 10 years. And we have the same type of application when it comes to leak detection of our natural gas lines, so they know what's coming up, because we have to get around all the residentials every 3 years, and that they use applications to track that. And so it really increases the efficiency of the field crews. But we're not without our challenges. So in the field worker area, we have 24, when I put this together, we had 24 open positions. We have recently have 4 maintenance worker hires that are pending right now. So that may decrease to 20. But the composition of that is where majority of those are maintenance workers, so they're really entry-level positions, and we've tried to work with HR to get into the schools to try to promote, come and work for us. You know, it's people that may not want to go to college, and they may want a career. Utilities is a good place to start. And we have had some very young staff people come to work for us, and they seem to enjoy it. But we still got a lot of work to do. And then there are about 11 or 12 of these positions that are more highly skilled. They're natural gas service technicians, go into homes to light gas. There are about 3 or 4 of those. There's motor equipment operators. You have to be skilled to drive a backhoe and run other kinds of equipment, and they take a little more skill set. Of course, we're competing with the private industry for these positions, and it's gotten tough in recent years, but we're trying to do everything we can to recruit people. And then I mentioned, you know, more stringent regulatory compliance. I talked a little bit about the leak copper survey that we're in the midst of doing. And additional SEC oversight, it's indicated that the federal government, which is the acronym is PHMSA, is coming down with more regulations next year associated with the natural gas utility, and we'll have to be on top of that. And then the stormwater program is about ready, it has or is about ready to have its 10th anniversary. And so we're going to look at evaluating any enhancements or fee adjustments that need to be made or phased in on the next rate setting. So stay tuned to hear more about that. And with that, if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed working with you on the Ravenna board, and you all do a really good job of keeping our utilities in excellent condition and very professional. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your presentation. I just had one piece here. It's something I don't really understand that well, but a friend of mine who knows a good bit about the stormwater utility fee, I guess it started 10 years ago. Is that right?
Yes.
Essentially, their question is, what is that money being used for? Is it just for utility projects, or is it being invested in the Water Resources Protection Program as well? I don't know if you could say a few words.
So it's twofold. It's investment in the water resources protection. So we do have projects like the stream restoration projects that are associated with the water resources protection that we invest in, as well as making sure our infrastructure is maintained. A vast portion of that, the fee is, you know, it used to, I don't know the numbers right now off the top of my head, but it's about 80 to 85% is associated with capital improvement program. And minimal is, you know, we don't have a lot of staff in the stormwater. There's only administrator, GIS technician, VSMP person that works in engineering, as well as the water resources specialist. So there's not a lot of overhead associated with this. And but we also have to have a credit program if people, you know, put something in that we have to do that by law.
For stormwater management?
Yeah, that's all in the fee, as well as, but it's mainly CIP.
But the WRPP is still at active. The WRPP, Water Resources Protection Program?
It's still active, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No questions?
Questions down here?
No.
I got nothing other than what I already asked you, so.
Okay, thank you. I'll get back with you on that.
You have
Thanks so much.
satisfied customers on the dais.
That's good. I know.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.
Okay, so that concludes our 4 o'clock agenda, and it's a good thing we didn't have a 5:30 agenda, so we could run a little bit long. Now is there a motion to go? We don't need to go into a closed meeting, so we just need to recess until 6:30. And if you're coming by Zoom, it's a different Zoom link then. So.